And yep, we're recording now.
All right. Hey, everybody. I am super excited. I've been looking forward to this day for quite some time. This is Dr. Jay Greenstein here with my good friend, Dr. Tim Bertelsman. Tim, good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you too, Jay. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, no, it's great. I'm so happy to be able to have this conversation with you. Every time I spend time with you, I get to learn something new. So I'm super excited. I think I'm going to learn a lot today. So super excited. So I first want to kind of get personal, Tim. I want you to kind of tell me about yourself, where you grew up, where you went to college and chiropractic school. Share with the audience that information, please.
Yeah, I went to school here where I live. That I'm in the St. Louis area, actually on the Illinois side of St. Louis in Swansea, Illinois. And so that's where I went to school. I went to Logan College of Chiropractic, graduated in '91, and have been in private practice ever since that point in time.
Wow. So I have to ask, when you grew up, because you and I are probably around the same age, were you a Cardinals fan?
Well, it's not past tense, Jay. We still are Cardinals fans here. That we unfortunately we're missing them right now because there's not much baseball going on. And I'd be a fan of anything. I was so excited just to hear there might be some NBA and NHL games going on. And sometimes I don't watch the NBA games, but I couldn't wait just to see something coming on. But yeah, it's hard not to be a Cardinals fan here in St. Louis. That one of those organizations that kind of like about building great organizations, and the Cardinals have done that. That whether you like them or not, the Cardinals and the Yankees know how to build organizations, and you got to admire that if nothing else.
Absolutely, of course. But the funny thing is I was not very good at communicating there because I was talking about the St. Louis football Cardinals. Were you a football Cardinal fan growing up?
Gotcha. Yes, we were all until that fateful day when Bill Bidwell moved them to Arizona in the middle of the night, and then we saw that happen again here a couple of years ago when our Rams got moved out back to Los Angeles. So we're footballists at this moment.
2 times in one city. That's not fair.
Yeah, I don't think we'll get a third chance.
Okay, cool. And the young people are like, the St. Louis Cardinals football team? What? They have no idea what I'm talking about, what we're talking about. So that's pretty funny. Okay, so you went to Logan. Tell us about the most memorable experience at Logan. Was there some sort of a defining moment for you there, or some sort of memorable experience?
Oh, I mean, lots of them. That it really was a great experience going to Logan. I enjoyed it very much. I think off the cuff, one of them would have been going to a Cox seminar. That I remember going to Indiana, and Jim Cox had a seminar where he taught us about back pain. I just found it, so knowledgeable, or he was so knowledgeable, and then to be able to employ that technique back in the office. That I've been a fan of that ever since, and have used it throughout my career. So I think just spending a weekend with Jim Cox and learning from him, of somebody who was like you, a chiropractor who put a lot of effort into their craft, that they didn't just go in and check out, that they went well above and beyond. And Jim still, is in the same mold, still chugging along. And I think he's probably was one of the greatest inspirations. I remember that weekend clearly. There were probably others that I could have remembered as well, but maybe not.
Well, that's great. I mean, if you have another one that you could share, I think that would be great, because these moments that we have in chiropractic school, in many situations, in many ways, kind of help guide our journey as chiropractors. So I love the Jim Cox story. Was there another one that maybe you would share?
Maybe not specifically. I think one of the big things, I think back about all the good friends that we made in chiropractic school, that when we were in school, we kind of fought our wars together, that we took the tests and we studied together, and not consistently, but we'd have fun together, we'd work together, we'd play together, and we were a group, we were a team. And then we get out in practice, and so many of us are just dumped into the world at that point in time. And all of a sudden you're in an office with you, and your buddies aren't there. They're in some other office. So you become this lone wolf, and all of a sudden you start to feel like you're the only person in the world that's facing those challenges, because you don't see the same tests that everybody else is taking at the same time as you. And I think that's why it's so critical for all of us to stay associated with our state associations, with our national associations, with the groups that continue to advance our practice, and realize that we're part of a wolf pack. But the only way we can be a pack is if we're all in that pack. So I think probably the biggest memory from college was the friends, and then not getting to see them on a daily basis, but realizing we're still in this together.
Incredibly well stated. I love the wolf and wolf pack analogy. And for those of you listening out there, if you're not a member of your state or national association, please join, because it does make a huge difference. You don't probably understand the work that goes into moving the profession forward, and it takes people, and it takes time, it takes money, it takes effort. But the only way we can be successful moving forward is to ensure that we are a wolf pack. So Tim, thanks for that very enlightening comment. So you got out of chiropractic school, you started your own practice. I feel you when you talk about feeling alone. What was the decision for you to start your own practice? Did you have an opportunity to be an associate, and why did you make the decisions that you made coming out of school?
I just had this urge to eat. And so there weren't any other jobs available. So I figured I had to start my own. And in all honesty, at that time, it was a lot easier to get started in private practice. It was not nearly as challenging. That managed care was developing and evolving at that point in time. We were past the 80s where money was cheap and easy. We were at a time that you had to work for it, but it wasn't the same managed care environment where now you have to prove yourself before you get into a network, and you can't get into a network until you've proven yourself. And it's just a challenging situation more challenging. But every era has its own challenges. I jumped in because that was the opportunity. I started in private practice here in town, and then we moved a couple of years later down into where we are now, right across the hall from our office here, and have been here ever since. And have had some associates along the way, some partners along the way, great partners, and have loved what I do. And even though now my entire day isn't taken up by patient care, I can tell you that those days that I do have patient care, they're the most exhausting, but they're also the most rewarding for sure. And you can probably attest to that as well. You're in the same boat, right?
Yeah, I am not seeing patients anymore. It's been a long time since it's been a long time since I've consistently seen patients. I have covered for some of my docs when, one of them broke his leg at playing soccer. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm covering for you. And it was fun. It was really exhilarating. It was good to be back in the saddle, so to speak. But I love what I'm doing right now. So it's also very fulfilling and rewarding and challenging, but still a lot of fun. Okay, so you mentioned being in the office across the hall. Let's talk about the office that you're in right now, which I assume is the Chiro Up office. Is that correct?
Right, I am. I'm borrowing Dr. Steele's office right now, as mine's being used for
Oh, that's
something else.
cool.
So, yeah, I'm in the king spot. I feel kind of special. I want to spin his chair around or something.
There you go. Long live the king, man. Long
That's
live the
right.
king.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, tell Brandon I say hello, please.
I will.
So tell us about how Chiro Up got started. Like, what was the seed that got this amazing company started?
Oh, well, thanks for that. Ironically, it was failure. That I had a patient, and Mary Garcia was her name, and I can say it because it was pre-HIPAA. And Mary had come in, and she had a shoulder problem, and I diagnosed her with a shoulder impingement syndrome, and I treated her with the best treatments that I knew how at that point in time. And I remember distinctly on what should have been her fourth visit, I went to the front desk and I said, "Hey, Debbie, where's Mary at?" And Debbie said, "Well, Mary called in. She said that she's not feeling any better. She's not coming back, and she's going to go see her doctor." And everybody who's had that feeling knows that just plain sucks. That you were tasked
Yep.
to do one thing, and that was to get the patient better, and you failed. And now not only did you fail, but she's going to tell some other decision maker that you failed. And she's going to tell her friends that she had to go see someone else to make that happen. So at that point in time, I had finished the post-grad in sports and was involved in orthopedics and thought I had a grasp on things, but clearly I didn't have a good enough grasp on things because I didn't help Mary. So I decided I'm going to do a little better job of figuring out what tests do I need to do differently? What treatments do I need to do differently? Is there something out there that I don't know about? And what do I really need to teach the patient? Do you give them a cross-body stretch, or do you give them eccentrics? What's the story? So dove into the literature and developed a protocol for a better way to treat Mary. And that's how we started out. Once I started using that protocol, I learned a couple of things. One was about scapular dyskinesis, meaning that if your shoulder blade's not getting out of the way, then it's hard for that subacromial space to stay open. So somebody's going to get pinched or irritated. So we started addressing scapular dyskinesis much more thoroughly, and also realized that most of those tendinitises that we were treating weren't itises, that the inflammation's gone after 2 or 3 days, and it's an apathy. It's turning to beef jerky. It's not red and swollen. So all the things that we try to do to reduce the swelling, like ice and interferential or ultrasound, or if you really hate them, put them in a splint. Those things weren't working for good reason, because there was no inflammation there to start with. So we started creating inflammation with lasers and
Yeah.
with Graston tools and factor tools and with eccentric exercise, not just exercise, we'll give them negatives. And once we started doing that, the results improved and practice became a lot more fun too. So we decided we'll do that for more than one condition. And before we knew it, we had a whole bunch and said, we should publish this. And so that's where we put it online, and that's how Chiro Up started.
That's just amazing. And it's not surprising, from a person like you to have this phenomenal company that started truly with a patient-centered approach. So I think that's just an amazing story. I love it. When it came to how you took the content and you said you put it online to what it's evolved to today, which is this phenomenal platform, like what was that journey like for you? Like what happened where you started putting stuff online and then all of a sudden it's now Chiro Up?
Well, we started, one of my patients was a coder. So just before that, we had come up with kind of a notes program that we could take notes, so just a quicker way to document. And we were kind of getting out of the notes business because that's when meaningful use and all those things came into play. So we kind of moved away from that, but I still had the coder in the relationship. So he coded our first site. I still remember it was $10,000 to code the first site, which was about what we put out last week to keep up the site. But that's what it cost to code it initially. And it was pretty simple. It was just to be able to send a patient a report of saying you have tennis elbow and cervical disc lesion, and create a customized report with your findings. And that was it. And then we put it out, and we knew that it was going to be popular until we actually put it out. And then we thought, oh, is anybody going to be interested in this? And that was the refreshing part, to realize that there's a lot of wolves in that pack, that there's a lot of people who have followed you and followed the CCGPP and followed the evidence-based organizations that are really leading the way in what our future looks like. So thanks for giving us the information to put into those protocols through years of hard work. And that's how we started. We've grown from there.
Well, we are a small part, but I appreciate that. We all try and do our part, and you guys are just doing amazing things. All of us have these journeys that we're on. I'm just curious, what was the one thing, and there's probably more than one thing, but the thing that stands out for you that you found out, that you learned, that you didn't expect to find out or learn during this journey?
I mean, there were so many things that it's nice to see the 10,000 foot overview that we, now we'll get a couple thousand research studies a month that our team goes through, and then we vet that down to modify the protocols. We maintain 100 conditions at the moment, and that grows each month or so. I think how those conditions are so interrelated that there really wasn't anything revolutionary or groundbreaking as far as this is something that is changing the world, but more so just that everything's a cycle, that shoulder pain's a cycle, whether it goes from scapular dyskinesis to impingement to tendinopathy to tear, or low back pain from joint dysfunction transitioning into a strain, into a disc, into degeneration, into stenosis. That everything's so cyclic, and that most of the time those named structural problems don't matter at all, that it's the functional precursors that are causing the symptoms, the functional deficits. That's where that patient's symptoms are coming from, and that's where we need to attack. That if we just solve the functional deficits, we'd probably not need to worry about it. So many of the studies say that arthritis has no correlation to pain, and that there are plenty of people who have rotator cuff tears. In fact, it's about proportionate to our age after we're past middle age. And
Wow.
as far as an asymptomatic tear, that 20% of people who have a sub 10 millimeter lumbar canal don't know they have stenosis. And the degree of spondylolysis and spondylolisthesis has no correlation to the patient's symptoms. How many meniscus and slap lesions have you seen in the last couple of years? That it didn't matter if it was there or not. Those structural problems are symptoms that are coming from something else, and it's that something else that we need to attack.
Amen. I love it, brother. Perfect. I'm going to ask you a different version of the same question. In terms of taking your high level clinical expertise. You know, you've obviously translated the evidence into practice and you've created a company around it and you've learned a lot from it, a lot of what you just shared. But what have you learned about really building a thriving technology company? What's the one thing that stands out for you during that journey?
Um, it's been a journey. You know, we always, when we started, we talked about 5-year Brandon and 5-year Tim, that we wish we had 5 years of experience under our belt when we started this thing. Because you learn so much in any process. You wish you were 5-year Joe chiropractor or Jill chiropractor too, that it'd be a lot easier if you started out with 5 years of knowledge.
Oh
So
yeah.
there have been a lot of lessons along the way, but I think it's the bottom line that the same thing that you've talked about and the same thing that we saw when we came out to your clinics a month or so ago, that it doesn't matter what businesses it is, it's about relationships, that we can do anything that we want in chiropractic marketing wise, that we can run yellow pages ads. So for some of you, that's this book that used to come out, it was yellow, that you'd have phone numbers in. You can do web ads, you can do social media marketing. All of those things are fine, but they're not relationships. That our most productive business comes from, as a chiropractor, from doing a good job and treating the patient well, building a relationship with them or building a relationship with their primary care physician, and then seeing what we can do with that relationship. That you've developed a product that's trustworthy, and now you've developed a relationship with somebody who wants to tell others about it. And that's very much with ours too, that you're very much a lone wolf in the tech industry, as you know, that you sit in your office and you're there, and yes, you're connected. And now we use computers a lot more than people. When I transitioned from that side of the hall of getting to touch people to this side of the hall to getting to bang on a keyboard, very, very different process. So you tend to feel that it's, not as much of a connection, but that's exactly what it is. That everything that we do, we try to build from a relationship standpoint, and that's where all of our business comes from, is building those relationships.
Yeah, it's so funny. I mean, we are on our tech team, we talk about customer success all the time. Like, it's just at the forefront of our mind. Like, we're not in the app building business. We are in the business to ensure the success of our customers, which means their patients are getting better. And so it's not surprising, obviously, hearing from you the importance of relationships, because that truly is what it's all about. And quite frankly, that's where the enjoyment comes from. When you can build that relationship with someone and you see that they're getting something great out of something that you've built, it's just very satisfying. Like helping a patient when they couldn't get on the chiropractic table, and you can adjust them and treat them, and now they can get off and they feel so much better. It's very rewarding.
Very much so. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So another question that I'm super curious about, your platform is amazing. It's huge. There's so much functionality. Is there one specific area of the platform that maybe is not getting as much use as you think it should be getting? You're thinking to yourself, like, come on, docs, use this part of the platform. This is like great functionality, or this is great stuff. This is like magic here. What advice would you give to your users and your future customers about what they should be using on the site if they're not using it already?
So I would say that number one would be, the foundation of our product is prescribing a condition report. So when a patient comes in with the disc lesion and tennis elbow, in a couple of clicks, we can shoot that report out to them saying, here's what's wrong, here's what you need to do, here's what we're going to do, here are your exercises, that sort of thing. And so I think the biggest issue is that if somebody doesn't try it, that, we'll get a lot of people who come on for trials and see that they never touched the system, that they didn't prescribe their first condition report, that if they prescribe 3 condition reports, the value is going to be proven at that point. So they're going to be on board.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be people who just don't ever try it. And that's the challenge in practice, is that we have so much noise, so many things coming our way. Try this, do that, do this. And it's hard to vet that. And the other thing is, I don't think you need to do everything, just like a marketing plan, that you don't need to have 17-pronged marketing approach. You need to do 2 things that you do really well, or 3 things that you do really well. And I think that's Chiro Up, is pick the things that are most essential. And certainly the condition report is one, and just do it well, which fortunately is pretty quick with a couple of clicks. I think the second thing would be leveraging the data that's collected. that when you send out a report, we send a report to it based upon your request. We'll send a questionnaire to the patient saying, how much better are you? How many times were you seen? What's your level of satisfaction? How likely are you to refer to Dr. Greenstein in the future? And so from that, you can see the outcomes, which is powerful because you can see per diagnosis, per patient, to say, here's where I'm good at carpal tunnel, here's where I'm not so good at lateral epicondylopathy. And then the resources are there, the protocols of how to do that better. So I think leveraging the data would be the big thing. And then taking that into a primary care physician's office, grabbing your laptop and sitting down with her or him and saying, you want to know what I'm good at? Here's what I'm good at. And you want to know what I'm not so good at? They want that too. They just want real. They know that none of us are miracle figures. I'm certainly not. That's how it all started, because I wasn't that great. So none of us get everybody better. Unless you're on stage, then of course you get everybody better, right?
I guess it depends who you're listening to. Certainly not me.
No,
I feel you.
me neither.
I've had my share of challenges for sure.
Yeah.
That's great. So that's great advice. Thank you for that. I actually was talking to a young doctor today who was raving about Chiro Up, and he was talking about, and he loves the idea of networking with physicians, and he was talking just about how great the platform was, and he was also super excited that he got this certificate in the mail that demonstrated like he was one of the top performers for a certain type of condition that he was treating. And I just thought that was so cool. It's so engaging, and it's a way to keep our tribe, our wolf pack, inspired to continue to do what they do, because it's easy to get beaten down. But when Chiro Up sends a certificate that says, hey, you're doing a great job, I just think that's incredibly inspiring. So what great functionality that you guys provided for that particular doctor and for all your doctors.
Well, thanks. He should be proud of that. That's a big deal. I'm not sure, and you don't tell me now who you're talking about, but we've got a few thousand people
Offline.
in there. So to be the top provider for a diagnosis is a pretty big deal. I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm the top provider for any diagnosis. Yeah.
I'm not either. So
yeah,
I got you. I feel you. Okay. So 2 last questions, because I know you're a busy man. What are you most excited for what's next for Chiro Up specifically?
The most excited for Chiro Up, just the evolution, that the ideas that we get from subscribers, the ideas that we get from brilliant people that we work with, like you and your team, of how can we collaborate, how can we put things together, how can we pool our resources to really be that wolf pack that advances our profession. That as evidence-based providers, we have an incredible opportunity. We have something that is irreplaceable, that no one else is going to match our outcomes. And to be able to push that message forward wide scale, I think is what I'm most excited about, to see that there's really a rally going on. And we're going to be the vocal majority in the very near future, if we're not already. And what we speak is true, and what we speak doesn't need to be sold. We now have a product that somebody wants to buy, rather than one that we need to sell with a whole bunch of patient education classes. That's out the door. People are going to see through everything in the future. That big data is making all of our offices glass transparency. They're going to see what's in our hearts and our minds and what happens in our offices. And the practices that are doing it for the right reasons, those patient-centered practices, are going to excel, and they're going to excel quickly. I think that's what I'm most excited about, and just to be able to be part of that journey along with you and what you're doing.
Well, you are leading the journey, my friend. So thank you for that. You've created an amazing product and platform, and I so appreciate that. Last question. Ready for this?
I'm not sure.
What? And I think you kind of answered it, but let's just expand on a little bit more, maybe. Like, what does the future hold for chiropractic in your mind?
I think it depends on which side of the fence that you're on. That I think that we've kind of had two professions for a long time, and I think that big data is going to split those professions. That if you're going to embrace big data and say, okay, I'll keep score, and I'll make sure that I'm doing my very best to get the best score. I'm not just out there swinging pitches. I have a batting average, and if I want to play in the big leagues, I need to know what that is. And I think that we're going to see that we can hit better than most every other provider, that our batting averages are going to be very high, and those providers are going to be rewarded. I also think that if you're not a good hitter and you're depending on pure charisma and pure who knows what to keep patients around, that's going to be a tough road to hoe. And so I think that's going to be a challenge to the profession. That I don't believe there's been anybody who's joined the profession, or very few people have joined the profession with a bad motive. I think that everybody wanted to help patients. We've just kind of learned different ways to do that over time. And unfortunately, we get dropped in the profession with a poverty mindset that we have to see patients. So I could see you twice, or I could see you 6 times. If I see you 6 times, I get to eat this week, my first week of practice. If I see you twice, I don't. So that's the tough part. But I think that the future of evidence-based care and the future of outcomes-driven reimbursement is going to reward those providers like chiropractors who can do that. And hopefully we can all migrate, because we all need to be there. I don't want to see two professions. I don't want to see a division. I don't want to see people drop out or not be successful. I want to see twice as many chiropractors all being successful, because that's how we get things done that you alluded to earlier, which is so critical. You've been heavily involved in multiple organizations. And until you're at that point, you don't realize it. That I used to send dues to my state association and always wondered, well, is this the first thing that should come off the list as things are tough? And then I volunteered for a project. So if that's ever given to you as an opportunity, a word of advice is don't, because you'll you'll quickly be leading that organization.
You'll be sucked in forever.
Yes, but one of the things that happens is you realize how critical those organizations are, that we would be swallowed by bad laws if there weren't groups holding that together. And those groups require dollars, and they require numbers. And so we need every chiropractor that we have in that process. So hopefully everybody takes a little bit of a step towards that patient-centric model, regardless if you're at the 99th percentile or the first percentile. And I'm not at either end, but I know I can take a step tomorrow.
Awesome. Well, Tim, my friend, thank you so much. And thank you to Brandon for your incredible leadership, for building an amazing platform, and for just being just a great human being. I so appreciate you. I so respect you. And I just appreciate you spending time with me today. Because like I said, I always get to learn from you every time we hang out. So you just made my day, brother. So thank you.
Vice versa. Thanks, Jay. Hope you have a great week.
Okay. Talk to you soon, buddy.
Bye.
Bye.